podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Amazing. Fun.
So you're in Chicago, but I did read you are from Canada originally. You want to tell me about that a little bit?
I am. I'm from a small town called Dundas.
Okay.
It's like an hour from Toronto, and that's where I grew up, and that's where home is. But I moved to LA about 7 years ago for music,
Okay.
and I've been here doing the same thing ever since.
Very, very cool. What was it like where you grew up in Canada? Was there, I mean, Toronto, was that fairly close? I know there's a big music scene there.
Yeah, there's a really good music scene in Toronto. It was like about an hour away from where I grew up, but it's funny because I never spent much time in the Toronto music scene. I think because I mean, it was still like an hour. It felt far. I was kind of like growing up. I worked with the vocal coaches and like people that were kind of in my community. And for me, I always just had the dream of like living in LA one day. So I kind of skipped Toronto to LA and I just went small town to LA. So that's kind of how it happened.
Right on, right on. You said you're in vocal lessons. Do you play an instrument at all?
I play guitar and piano. I play both of those a little bit. I was self-taught for the most part. And I play them more as like a writing tool, just to kind of find my way around, forming a song and all of that stuff. But vocals are definitely like my main instrument.
Okay. Vocal lessons, but prior to that, did you ever take piano lessons or guitar lessons? Did your parents throw you in that at all?
I took a bit of piano lessons, but I got so bored that I quit. Only because
like most kids.
Like most kids. My piano teacher was amazing, but I really went in because I wanted to like learn how to play like my favorite songs on the radio.
Okay.
And when I went into piano lessons, the short time that I was in them, looking back, obviously it was great and I wish I had stuck it out, but it was like, following the scales and like sight reading and like learning like these classical, I mean, not that difficult, but like classical style music. And for me, that's just not where my interest lied.
Sure.
So I kind of gave up on that. But then I started YouTubing like, okay, what are chords and what are chords made up of? And then I would Google like the chords of my favorite songs. And that's kind of how I started really teaching myself.
Very cool. It's interesting to me as I can't play piano, and it's one of my biggest regrets. So my dad can play very well, and so can my sister, and they both took lessons. But it's funny to me that there isn't like a piano. If I was a piano teacher, I would just put in my bio like, I will not teach you like all the classical garbage. Like just bring whatever hit songs you want to learn, and we'll fumble through it, and then it's like learning guitar. Like you don't just sit there and okay, I'm going to learn these scales. It's like you just pick it up and try to.
Yes. And now that I know, like, cause I was a kid too, like now I have a guitar teacher that I'll bring in once in a while. If I'm like, hey, I really want to like learn how to play one of my own songs better. Like at least I know what I want and what to ask for. But as a kid, I'm like, I didn't know. I just knew that I wasn't doing what I wanted to do.
Sure. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so when did you realize that this was kind of your dream? I mean, when did you get the vocal lessons? Were you very early on?
Very early on, I begged my parents to put me in vocal lessons. Okay. I knew I wanted to sing and perform, and I knew I loved music since I was like 3.
Okay.
So it's kind of always something I was aware of, and I begged my parents to put me in vocal lessons. I always loved vocal lessons, even though my vocal lessons were pretty traditional in the sense we were learning scales and I was singing classical music. I was trained by this amazing Polish opera singer, and she was teaching me like all these opera songs. So like that was all fun for me. And one of my vocal coaches, he knew I had an interest. I was writing poetry and I didn't really understand how to bridge the gap between like writing lyrics in poetry and how to turn that into a song. And I was 12 and he recognized that. And cause he was also like a pop vocal coach. This is not the Polish opera singer girl. This is another one. And he was really great. And he kind of taught me how to like form a song. So through him, I wrote my first song, and then I never looked back.
Wow, 12.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess it was. I don't know. Probably
But
wasn't a very good song.
But hey, you got to start somewhere. With the opera, that must have been interesting too. I mean, are you singing in different languages? Like, do you speak French at all, or?
I don't really speak French. I mean, I'm from Canada, so like growing up, one of like the classes we have to take in school is like French class. So I know like little, things here and there. I don't know. I can't speak it fluently. But we did like in the songs that I was being taught, I sang in Italian mostly. I didn't know what I was saying, but I understand the gist of it, like, because she would tell me what the song was about. But anytime anyone asks me about vocal lessons or if they should get trained, I always say, like, 100%, if you can find a vocal coach that understands that you want to sing pop music, if that's what you want to sing, but has the background and can teach you in classical music, I recommend it so much. Because if you think about these amazing opera singers and they're on this stage and they are projecting their voice and they're able to do it night after night, they obviously have amazing technique and they know how to like project. So I definitely learned a lot from that vocal coach, just about the technicals and really where to place your voice. And that helped me a lot moving forward, because pop music, you're using different parts of your voice. And I mean, you hear it happen all the time where people blow out their voice and they have to go in for vocal surgery, which is terrifying. And that's my worst nightmare. So I think as a vocalist, because it is a muscle in your body, it is, something that you can, treat badly and then you can't sing anymore. It's not like you can really damage it, not like playing piano where, I mean, of course you can accidentally like chop your finger off, but like,
dislocate a finger or something.
Yeah, but it's something that you have to be really careful of. So I always recommend people try and look into like classical voice training.
Sure. Yeah. Cause you hear about that all the time.
People
getting like stuff on their
nodules,
vocal
cords, and they have to get surgery and they're out, and like, oh my God, I don't know what I would do. So, yeah.
Okay. So 12 years old, you write the song. What, obviously very young at that point, but where do you go from there? Were you in musical theater at all? Did you join some sort of vocal ensemble, or like what was your next step musically?
I mean, there wasn't, my school was pretty small. We didn't have like a choir or anything like that. We had like a symphonic band later on. So I joined band and played the saxophone.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that was cool. And we did have a jazz band in high school. So I joined the jazz band and I was the vocalist of the jazz band, which was fun because that was another like genre that I could kind of try and learn.
And one of the most difficult genres
of that, right? It was really difficult. So so that was really great training. And I actually started out like performing in front of people by singing like the national anthem at different events that would happen in like my town, or like the closest city to us, which was Hamilton. So I was like, when the premier of Ontario came into our city, or like when the local golf and curling club like had like their Christmas event or something, or some kind of function, I would be the girl to go sing the national anthem.
That's awesome.
So I was doing that a lot. And then like for hockey games and stuff too, when like US teams would come in and play, then I would sing both anthems, which was always like super nerve-wracking. So that's
your anthem is, and I tell this to every person from Canada that I talk to. You guys have the best national anthem. I mean, it's far superior to any other national anthem there is.
Well, as a singer, yes, because it's a lot easier. The American anthem is difficult to sing because it's such a wide range. And if you don't start on the right note, then you can like really screw yourself and then you can't hit that high note. So like, but I mean, also the American anthem is very like, I feel like triumphant and big. So like when someone does perform it well, it can take your breath away.
Sure.
So I'll give you that.
But in musically and just sonically for me, Canada's anthem is the #1 anthem worldwide.
Well, thank you.
Wow. Okay. So you got to sing the national anthem.
It was cool.
And did you like from there? Did you go to like university at all for music?
So this is always like, this was kind of one of the biggest decisions I had to make. I was in high school. I was performing out as much as I could. I was spending my summers, like I would attend different like writing retreats in Canada. And and in the summers, that's really where I could like spend all my time, like doing the music stuff that I wanted to do. So I was going to like drama summer camp and all that stuff. And Toronto has a college called Humber College. And in the summers, they would have like a 2-week songwriting course. And it wasn't just like, I was usually the youngest person there. It was people of like all ages.
Okay.
So I got to spend time there in the summers. But when it came time, like obviously you're like in grade 11 and grade 12 and everyone's talking about what they're going to go to college and university and like you have to like go be a grown up. And I loved school and I do well in school, but I knew that's not really what made me happy. And I obviously knew music was what I wanted to do, but it wasn't like the route that people were taking. I was in a small town. Everyone was going to college. Everyone was going to university. So I decided I did apply for Berklee College of Music. I got in, got a scholarship. However, as a Canadian international student, we couldn't afford tuition. It was so expensive being a foreigner. So I wasn't able to do that. So I decided, okay, I'm going to take like a year off after high school and just figure out what I'm going to do. So I ended up driving to Nashville. I had like a little blue Saturn and I packed it up. I was like, you know what, I'll go for like 2 weeks and I'll go to writing rounds and I'll just like try and meet people and try and like write as many songs as I can. And I picked Nashville because it was only a 14-hour drive from where I grew up. So
that's where I'm at currently.
Oh, so yeah. So
well,
it's like
to be fair, I just moved here. My family and I just moved here like a month ago. So
from where?
From San Diego.
Okay.
So
I was born and raised in California and going to Nashville.
It's quite cool. A place. Yeah.
I mean, are you enjoying it so far?
I love it. Yeah, we love it here. So it's just such a different world. And
super different. But I have a lot of friends that moved there. Nashville's great. It's like for me, and it's changed a lot since I was there. It felt like it was a city, but it had like a small town vibe.
Oh, totally. Yeah, we're outside in the. Yeah. I have 2 kids, and we wanted them in the school districts. The better school.
Yes.
So we're in the burbs a bit, but we love it. That's absolutely awesome. Love it here.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that because it is a great place. It's a special place in my heart.
Okay, so you drove it. So it's 14 hours just driving directly south, essentially, right? Okay.
Yeah. So I left at like 5:00 in the morning because I didn't want to be driving alone at nighttime by myself. So I was 18 and I ended up going down there and I was like, oh my God, this is so fun. And I was like, you know what? I should just stay here as long as I can until they kick me out because I don't have a green card or a visa. So I ended up staying and I got a P2 visa, which is like a performance visa. And which allowed me to be there for more than 6 months because as a Canadian, you can't be in the United States for more than 6 months. So I was able to.
I always find, sorry to cut you off, but is that difficult to get that? I mean, I've heard a lot of like horror stories.
Oh my gosh. The whole immigration process, that's one of the reasons why I ended up not staying because the immigration process and people are always like, oh my God, but it's Canada. You guys are like neighbors. And I'm like, I know it sounds simple, but it's not. So I was there for 1.5 years. I wrote a bunch of amazing songs. I met this woman named Tanya. She is also an amazing songwriter. So is her husband. And together we wrote a bunch of songs. I recorded an EP. The goal was to try and like get a major label on board to like try and sign me. Of course, that's the dream. And I ended up getting an offer from an independent label in Canada. It was the first offer I got, wasn't getting any bites from US labels. And I was already really stressed out about the whole immigration thing because every time like I went home to visit my parents and I tried to come back, it was always, I would get pulled into interrogation, and it
Oh,
was really stressful. And I still didn't like, I never felt like I didn't know what, if I, even tomorrow, if I was able to be there with the visa I was on. So
right.
I ended up taking the deal with the independent label in Canada. So I
Mhm.
went back. The label was just outside of Toronto. Spent a year and a half back home, released a full album. We did the radio thing. It was super fun. I learned a
Wow.
lot because it was an independent label. I did learn a lot about like, what they do to grow artists and kind of what goes on behind the scenes.
Sure.
And which was a great learning experience for me, because I ended up, of course, history repeated itself. I went to LA. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I know I want to be in LA. That's kind of where I've always wanted to go. So I'll
Sure.
go there for 2 weeks, typical thing. And I go there and I'm like, I'm never leaving. But luckily, what had happened was, because I had spent a year and a half in Canada, really building my career as an artist and as a songwriter, even though I was in Canada and it's not as big of a market as the US market, I
But
was still
it's
able to
still
do some
big,
stuff.
right? I
Yeah. And
mean,
I was on radio and,
that's
just
cool.
doing what
Oh,
I could. So,
tell me about the radio real quick before we get into
yeah.
LA. Okay, so when you got back and you released this record in Canada, and you're doing like a radio, you're doing like a little like radio tour. I worked
Yes.
in radio for 15 years, so I
Oh,
know how it
cool.
goes. Where
Okay.
the artist comes in, did you play like
Yeah.
little conference rooms to
Fun.
like?
Yes. People are really fun. And yeah, you
Yeah,
talk to people.
was it cool hearing your song on the radio the first time?
Yes. I think I ran, like, I remember I like ran a red light because I was so excited. Like it had turned and then I was like, oh my God, I didn't press the brakes because I was so distracted. I didn't hurt anyone. It's fine.
That's
But
good.
yeah, it was really cool. It was super fun. I loved
That
it.
is awesome. So once you did that, you had you grinded, you put the work in there in
Yes.
Canada, and then
Yes.
were you still assigned to that label, or was it like a one record deal? And
It was a one record deal plus an option of a couple more.
okay.
Trying to remember the deal exactly. So I kind of sold it to him like, I'm gonna go to LA and like I'm gonna write more songs for content, on the next
Mhm.
album, and I'll come back.
Got it. Okay.
But of course, when I got there, I was like, I don't want to come back. I just want to stay here. So I ended up finagling myself out of the deal, because they didn't really, if for me to continue working with them, I kind of needed to be in Canada for like touring and radio and all that stuff. And I really just wanted to be in LA
Mhm.
for like my creative spirit. I felt like that's where I was flourishing. And
Mhm.
like people I wanted to write with were there. And as a songwriter, like being in a new environment and like a big city where you don't know anyone, I feel like is the best inspiration, because you kind of just have to like learn a lot about who you are and who you are as a writer and an artist, because you don't have anyone around you telling you who you are. You have to figure
Okay.
that out yourself.
Was it
So like,
was it difficult to like get in these writing rooms with people, or because
yes.
you were established a little, you're established in Canada? Did that give you some leverage when you moved to LA, or no?
I think a little bit, yeah, because I had like some stuff going on already, and I feel like people like Canadians, so I think that like I
Yeah.
think that helped a little. Like I'm from Canada, I don't know what I'm doing, but yeah, I think that helped a little. But I still didn't know anyone, so I was just really trying to grind and like meet new people, and like
Got it.
I was going out to like different music events and writers nights and just trying to connect like as many dots as I could to like,
Mhm.
people that I could work with. And, I'm sure, the more you do that, you can start kind of building your way up. And like, it's amazing how like you meet one person and that can open up the door to like 5 other people.
Sure. Just opening your network up.
Yeah. So I just started doing that. And because of what I had built up in Canada for myself, I was able to apply for an O1 visa, which is the artist visa, which is a very long, stressful process. But I got approved, and that
Amazing.
allowed me to be in LA for 3 years. And I could work in music and I could,
Wow.
do my thing. And from there, I applied for my green card, which is an even more stressful process. And oh my God, horrible. But I got that.
Wow, congratulations. Do you have to
Thank
take
you.
do you still have to take that test? Or they ask you all
So
these historical questions that no person
okay.
from America knows
So
anyway?
I have to take that test like later this year. So that's
I'm
know.
sorry.
I actually have to start studying, so I'm glad you reminded me. That's the citizenship test. So
Okay.
so I'll be dual citizen, assuming I pass, which hopefully I will. So yeah, basically I need to start studying because they are like all these questions that like everyone's like, oh my God, it's so easy. It's fine. I'm like, no, it's not. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't even know all the questions.
Yeah, if
like,
somebody handed me that test right now, I'd fail it. And I've been here my whole life.
Yeah, so I'm going to be taking that test later this year. So wish me luck. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I actually have a couple of friends like here in LA who like are all going to be taking the test around the same time as me. So I think we're going to have like a little like
study group.
Immigrant study group. So it'll be fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get to LA, you're writing these songs, you get your green card, huge. Was that like because you were working essentially in LA, that's how you were able to apply and then get the green card?
Yeah, so to get the green card, you have to build more of a case. So I got the O1 visa, which is the artist visa, based on the criteria that I built for myself as an artist in Canada. And then to apply for the green card, that's kind of based on the criteria you've built for yourself since you got your O1. So I definitely had to like, in the 2 years between me getting my O1 and me applying for my green card, I really hustled to like try and do shit in LA and like make it happen. So I released songs independently. Some were featured by like Ryan Seacrest and a bunch of really cool like music blogs. And I was getting my stuff placed in like some film and TV projects. And I was just kind of like trying to do as much stuff as I could, obviously as an artist. But I also knew that this is going to help build my case for myself when I try and apply for my green card.
Got it. What year was this around?
This was like 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, so like I'm just looking at just going off your Spotify. So like with Touch the Ground, was that a song that you released when you had moved to LA, or was that prior?
Tidal Waves and Hurricanes was one song that I had released prior to me applying for my green card, but none of the stuff I released in Canada is on my Spotify.
Got it. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I really only started focusing on Spotify like a few years ago. I was, putting stuff on, I guess they were coming out on Spotify, but my focus was really just like on YouTube and all that stuff. And really only like, I would say 3 years ago was I like, I need to really try and build up my Spotify. Like that's where people are going to be coming to listen to my music. So that was kind of like a goal I set for myself as an artist. Like, and looking back, I kind of was, I was releasing stuff here and there, but I was always kind of waiting around for like someone to come scoop me up and like sign me. And like, then I was going to make it happen. And I kind of realized like, why am I waiting around? Like I have to start releasing a lot of music because I'm an artist. I'm a recording artist. I'm a songwriter. I'm a singer. Like that is who I am. So I need to be putting stuff out there. I don't want to be waiting around for anyone. And now looking back, like I kind of love being an independent artist because I can release music when I want. I write about what I want. And being a female in this business too, I kind of feel empowered to have my own label and to be releasing my own music and kind of running that show. I of course have an amazing team. I have a manager. I have really cool like squad, and it's just been like the last year has really empowered me to want to be an independent artist and choose that rather than me hoping for something else. And I've really, really loved it.
Well, you've amassed like millions upon millions of streams online. I mean, on your Spotify alone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in today's society or today's world, when it comes to the record industry, I feel like people are achieving that without a label, and then it's like the labels are going, oh hey, I see that you have 3.6 million plays. Like, do you want to come? And it's like, well, why do I need you? I already got 3.6 million plays on this song. And
I knew like they only come around once they already see success. Like they can't afford to take a risk anymore.
Right. No one's in the business of
gambling.
Right. Or I mean, developing artists.
Yes, for sure.
So
So
going
yeah.
independent, that's a brilliant move.
Yeah. And I knew, like, when it does take off the way I want it to, or like, when those things start moving in a positive direction, then a label will want to come around. But even then, like, would I want that? Probably not. Because it's kind of fun, like doing what I'm doing and seeing the numbers grow on my own and being able to choose the people that I work with and make the videos I want to make. And I feel like now too, like with Spotify, about a year ago is when I made the conscious decision to release music like on a super consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
And now I feel like Spotify recognizes that because we're getting added to like some really dope official Spotify playlists, and like, a lot of like the people that have been listening to my music have been super loyal, and like they pre-saved the song, and it's all kind of been building. So now that every time I do release a new song, I have more to go off of, which is exciting. It's really fun.
Yeah, I love that. And you've released quite a few songs this year already. I mean, you are very, very consistent with your releases. I'm curious to know where you were like end of 2019 when the pandemic kind of hit. Did you have a bunch of songs ready, and was there like, okay, I want to put an EP together and tour, or like where were you at when that all happened?
One of the big strategies for myself as an artist to build up my Spotify was to write, like, before I started releasing my stuff, I was like, I want to start building a fan base and get involved with DJs and writing top lines for DJs. So I started doing that, started writing for a bunch of artists, and they would come out as like co-artist releases. So that way a DJ, I would always try and write, of course, for a DJ who had much better numbers than I did. So I could like, try and get exposed to their fans.
Sure.
So I would write, these songs, and I would pitch them out to DJs on Instagram, or I would reach out to the labels and just send them out, and stuff was getting picked up. And that way, when the DJ did release the song with my voice on it and I was the co-artist, I was getting a bunch of streams on those songs, and I was starting to get new followers on my Spotify. So I focused on that for like a year and a half, 2 years, before putting out my own stuff. And then like literally the summer before pandemic hit, like 2019, I guess, a year and a half ago, I was already writing and recording my own songs that I plan on releasing in 2020. So once like the pandemic hit, I was kind of like, oh my God, like now what? Because I'm not going to go tour or like, all the stuff I wanted to do. But at least I had like a few songs in my back pocket that I had planned on releasing. So I started, it's funny because at the beginning of the pandemic, I remember having a conversation with my manager, like, is the timing weird? Like, should we even be putting music out? Like, is people not even listening to music? Like, we didn't know what was going on. So,
sure.
But I was like, you know what? Like, people are sad right now. Like, they need music. So we're like,
got nothing else going on.
Yeah. So, we ended up releasing like my kind of like the first solo song, which was back where we started. And then after that, we put out I Don't Need You. And then we've just been putting out stuff ever since. And that's kind of like the first, like this new chapter of myself as an artist, under my own label, doing my own thing, and like really strategically, like every 6 weeks putting out a song and like working on videos, and yeah, so we've been growing it for the last year and a bit. It's funny because before it was like doing my own stuff, but also focusing a lot on like writing for other artists and trying to do all of that. But of course in 2020 we were kind of forced to like work on our own, and I wasn't really able to do that. So it was kind of like a way for me to just focus on my own stuff.
Do you remember getting that first kind of deal with a DJ, like writing a song and then having them be like, yeah, I want to cut this? Was that
yeah.
Tell me about that.
So I'm trying to remember, there's two, but one of them This guy Schiller.
Okay.
This is such a random story. He's a German DJ, super amazing guy, really talented. I was performing at like this, it was this men's business function. They bring in, I guess, people like who are, doing their own
Businessman.
thing, business. I mean, yeah, they brought in a
Men
female
in
for some
business.
reason. I was like, yeah, the only girl in the room. I think they really admired like artists and like people who are like, I don't know, really
Sure.
fighting, clawing their way up. So I went in, I sang a couple songs, I performed, and Schiller ended up coming up to me after, and he's like, "Hey, like I'm a DJ, and I would love if you could write some songs for me, and like, maybe help me work on my next album." And that was like the first time I'd ever like even thought about electronic music or doing that. Like it
Mhm.
was so foreign to me. We ended up getting together. He was really amazing. And I had no idea what I was doing. He just started playing me some beats. And I was like, okay, because my normal process was like sit down at a piano and write a song. But he was
Mhm.
like making like these really cool like beats and electronic things. And like it was so like not my process. But I was like, okay, it sounds awesome. And I'll just do what I normally would do, like
Mhm.
over a piano, but I'll just do it over his like dope beats.
Sure.
So we did that, and it worked out, and he released some of the stuff, and that was kind of like my first taste of that. And then I ended up going to Amsterdam and writing a bunch of songs, and some of those songs started getting picked up too. Um, and
Wow.
yeah, so the rest is history.
Yeah, I did see that you got to like travel kind of the world and write
Yeah.
like in Greece and Amsterdam and London,
Yes.
Thailand. And was that all
Yes.
done just based off was that with different artists throughout the world? Like, or was
So
that with some of the same artists?
that was mostly like with different producers. So like I went to a writing camp in Greece.
Hmm.
And actually my Canadian PRO, Performance Rights Organization, they're the ones that recommended I go to that because it was like this week long, basically it was a writing camp, and it was just a way for different producers around the world to link up with different artists and songwriters. So it was me and like some other singers and songwriters and some really cool producers. And every day they put us in a room with like two other people. They match us up. We have
Hmm.
briefs for artists that are looking and projects that are looking if we want to write for that. But we kind of have like our freedom to just see what happens. So it was really fun because it was like a week every day, like you're writing a new song and then you play it for everyone at the end of the day. So it was fun because I got to meet so many cool people from around the world that I normally would have never met.
Hmm.
And from that trip, one of my friends, Tim, who I met on that week, he's like, you should really come to Amsterdam and like, sing for like some DJs out here. And I didn't even know that Amsterdam was like this like city where like people are like freaking dope producers and everyone
Sure.
there is so talented. I had no idea. Like this is my like I still didn't know anything about like electronic music and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
it's huge. Like
Oh my god,
like I mean, this
huge.
side of the world.
And I was living in such like a small like little Canadian bubble where like I had no idea what was going on. I
Hmm.
obviously I was living in LA. I was in such a bubble. And
Hmm.
so my friend Tim, who I was working with in Greece, he's like, why don't you come to Amsterdam for 2 weeks straight from here? I'll set you up with some sessions. It'll be fun. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, yes, let's do it.
Hmm.
I went, we worked with like we wrote so many amazing songs. One song we wrote was Runaway, which Julian Kalor ended up releasing. And that was kind of like my first like top line that I had
Sure.
written, not with a DJ, that got picked up. And I know it's now to go and write songs. And yeah, I can't wait to go back.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. So when you write now, it's like, was it different as far as, okay, this song is mine. I'm not giving it to this DJ or like, do you ever have that where, I mean, I don't even
Oh
know if you're
no.
pitching to other people
Sorry,
anymore.
it froze.
Oh, you're frozen. Are we? I
Oh my
lost
God,
your
I'm
video.
back.
You're back. You're back. Okay, we'll edit
I'm
this out.
sorry.
Don't worry.
Okay, good.
Oh no.
Oh my God, Chicago. Anyways, I missed what you said. Sorry.
Oh, my question was just, I want to know if, like, are you still currently writing to pitch to other artists, and how does that process work? Like, are you just writing songs and then you're like, you know what, there's no way I would ever pitch this out to anyone else?
I mean, I'm definitely just writing songs, just with the idea, like, I want to write a great song. And of course, like, if a big artist comes along and wants to take a song, I'll never like say like no to that.
Right. If Halsey knocks on your door and
Yeah,
is
I'm
like,
like,
hey,
oh, think about it. But it's not something where I'm like, this has to happen or else, I'll be really upset. I have no
Okay.
expectations. The main focus has been my own stuff. That's kind of, where I'm spending most of my time. I am doing some like pitching out of like top line still, doing a lot of sync stuff. But most of like my focus right now is just like my own project. Cause it's like, I had no idea. It's so freaking time consuming. Like between like, the artwork and the music videos. And when you're releasing a song like every 5 weeks, like you have to write the song and then get it produced and then record it and then make a video and all the content. And it's a lot of work. So
yeah.
So it's kind of been like my biggest, like where I'm focusing my
Just
time
focus on you. I love that. And
Yeah.
Sail Away, you just released what, like 2 weeks ago, if that?
A week and a half ago.
A week and a half ago. Tell me about that song.
So that one was my quarantine baby, because like, with quarantine, as you know, like we couldn't really see anyone. So
Right.
I was like, you know what, through this experience, if there's one thing I'm going to learn, it's that I can be a producer and I can write a song, without anyone. I can produce it on my own. And I love girl power and I'm all about that. And I always it was always known to me that like there's not a lot of female producers. I actually never really worked with I've worked maybe with one before.
It's interesting.
I know it is interesting.
You're not the first female performer I've talked to or artist I've talked to that said that in there. And it's one of those things, and I can't remember who told me this. It was somebody recently, and they were like, it's funny because men can just assume that they can just like get GarageBand and like put a few drum beats together, be like, oh yeah, I'm a producer. But like women can't, or they can, but it's just not. I don't know how to explain it. It's weird.
I don't understand it either, and like to explain why, I really don't know. But it's like less than 3% of credited music producers are females, which is wild.
It blows my mind.
It blows my mind. And I mean, I know that even just from like who I work with and like being in the business, like there are so few female producers. And I don't understand why. I just don't get it. I don't know. It's like one of those
I don't know.
things.
It's like women aren't able to just say that they're, I don't know that they're like any guy, like I just said, like anybody that could just put some garbage together and be like, oh, I'm a producer. Like, no, you're not. Like, let's be real.
And I don't know if it's like, because like, there's, especially in like hip hop, like, I know like from a lot of like my male producer friends that produce hip hop music, like they're in the studio late. There's like 12 dudes in the room. I don't know if that's like an environment where like a female wouldn't feel comfortable. And
oh, that's a good point. I
have no idea. But either way, through quarantine, I was like, I am going to be a female producer. So I was like, oh, like, and I always like, I mean, I have Logic. I've always produced and recorded my own vocals at home. I have my own setup, but like I've never.
Then you're a producer. That's a producer, right? I mean, that's what any dude would say.
Yes.
Like if I sang like 3 bars horribly and then just put auto tune on, on Logic, then I could just be like, I produced this.
Put like a clap track below it.
Yeah, right. Snap my fingers a few times.
I mean, that's the thing. Anyone can be a producer. So, and that was the mentality I went in. I was like, you know what? Anyone can be one. So I'll be that one person too. So but like up until Sail Away, I'd written stuff, I produced my own vocals, but I'd never like produced my own track.
Okay.
so that was my goal. And that's what happened with Sail Away. I wrote it, I produced it. It was kind of like the first thing I did entirely on my own. And I really wanted to just like release it. So we did like a week and a half ago, and it's already at almost 100,000 streams, which
I
is
was
so
just
sick.
gonna say, like,
Yeah.
you obviously hit it out of the park. It wasn't
Thanks.
like you put it up and nobody cared. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that must have been so validating.
It was super validating, and it was Women's History Month. So like just for me the timing was like super fun. Like March was all about like girl power and like, you know,
Sure.
recognizing badass females, and yeah, that was just really fun for me.
I love that. I love that. Was that one of many songs you wrote during quarantine, or was that kind of like where you started and focused a lot of your time?
Yeah, it was like I wrote a bunch of stuff during quarantine.
Okay.
But
Well, I noticed you
producing,
released a lot of songs this year already. I mean, was that
yeah.
stuff that you maybe had prior to lockdown
Yeah,
and all that,
Choose
or?
Me was one I'd written prior to lockdown. But the next single after Sail Away, which is called My Oh My, I wrote that a few months ago. So there's a
Awesome.
bunch of stuff that will, because I mean, you understand, like, it's by the time you write a song and then by the time like it like sees the light of day, it's like it always takes forever. So like
Right.
I
That's
feel
why
like the
it's like
next year will be the quarantine songs.
the quarantine records. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Do you have any plan to put it all together into like one big project, or is it just,
Yeah, it'll
is there
be
even a
part of
point to
an
do that
EP.
anymore?
I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm going to put it together as an EP at the end
Okay.
of July.
Awesome.
And I don't have a name for it yet, so any ideas are welcome. But I know I do want to put it together as like a little project for sure.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Well, thank you so much, Maggie, for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. It's
Thank
been
you so
awesome.
much. Sorry that my Zoom crapped out. I hope that's fine.
No,
Okay.
don't apologize,
Okay, good.
please. But I have one more question for you. I want to know,
Yes.
do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
I have a lot of advice.
Let's hear it.
Well, I would say if you are an aspiring artist, make sure you really freaking love it, because it's always going to take more work than you think it will. It's going to be harder than you think it's going to be. So just go in being prepared for that and really take on that challenge, knowing that it's going to be difficult, which is why you really should love it. And also, like, I feel like there's this thing where like people will say like, I want to be an artist one day, or like, I want to be an actress. Like, it's not that you want to be one, like actively be it. If you want to be an artist, be an artist. To be an artist, you just have to like put out songs, and you luckily nowadays like you can do that. So just start acting like one now. And you'll be one.